I stopped watching the hit TV show Vikings after, spoiler alert, Ragnar's death. Whilst I enjoyed the show, I was mindful of the fact that there were historical inaccuracies. I could forgive this, given that adaptations are sometimes necessary for the sake of the nuances of the given medium.
Sanity! To be here another 5 cycles!
We've decided to keep you here for another 50 cycles. With endless options for renewal. With endless options for renewal. With endless options for renewal.
Think Lord of the Rings, the books, versus Lord of the Rings, the movies, for an example. Both are great in their own ways. However, in my idle scrolling past various YouTube shorts, I have come across various scenes depicting Alfred the Great in the show. Needless to say, I'm not impressed. They McLovined my boy. Why? Why would they do this? Effectively, the producers have taken the greatest Anglo-Saxon ruler and denigrated him to being entirely reliant on Danes. This despite his historically vigorous opposition to the Scandinavian peoples who were attempting to seize the land that belonged to his people. He is known as the Great for many reasons. He was able to defeat a large Viking invasion and save Wessex from Viking occupation, which the neighboring Anglo-Saxon kingdoms were unable to do. He reorganized Wessex military and protected his lands by constructing a ring of well-garrisoned fortresses around his territory to hamper future Viking incursions. He was a visionary and progenitor of a united England, as it was his work on this earth that paved the way for his descendants to rule over a united English kingdom. He is also known for being studious and pious, advocating for the translation of works from Latin to Old English that he regarded as essential for good Christian rulership. He even translated some of these works himself. His legacy was so incredible that many future leaders looked to his rule as a model for their own. In later years, Charles Dickens used Alfred to demonstrate the best of English character, stating that he possessed all the Saxon virtues, whom fortune could not subdue, whom prosperity could not spoil, whose perseverance nothing could shake, who was hopeful in defeat and generous in success, who loved justice, freedom, truth, and knowledge. With all this in mind, look at what they did to my boy.
Oh my God, bro.
Oh, hell no, man. What the fuck, man? Get your ass on, boy. Bye. You get your goddamn ugly ass on.
What is this?
What?
The Franks call it a catapult. Use them against us in Paris. I think they could be useful. Cut the rope.
Never hesitate.
With this playthrough, I intend to recapture Alfred's greatness, to throw off the McLovin and cast Wessex as not being only preeminent in the British Isles, but the greater Middle East. This playthrough has been suggested to me on my last cursed run by Redditor Extreme Pound 8234, who asked me to end the Persian Intermezzo as Alfred of Dorset. Before showing you just how I managed to achieve this, I confess that I tried to go about reaching the Middle East my standard way, by becoming Norse and doing a Varangian adventure into Persia. I did manage to achieve this, but by the time Alfred arrived there, the Intermezzo was more than halfway towards its automatic resolution. I had only just conquered a duchy from the Saffarids, so there was hardly any time to resolve the Intermezzo myself. I had to try something different, so here's what I did instead. The first thing I did is I became an adventurer. I decided to choose freebooters as my camp purpose because you can make so much money from crime. By becoming an adventurer, I do unfortunately lose quite a significant amount of fame, so I'm going to need to maximize gaining prestige where I can. Before I do this, in order to ensure that I do not inherit the Duchy of Wessex, as historically was the case, I repudiate my inheritance. The first contract I get is to mug wealthy citizenry. Quite a far cry from Alfred's historic legacy, but fortune beckons and the gold must flow. Before embarking upon mugging the rich, I build a barber's tent for an extra trickle of gold. I mug my first woman for 50 gold, but I'm unfortunately unsuccessful in mugging a Welshman by the name of March. I mean, I don't know if there's any people that are Welsh watching this, but I mean, is that a common name? Anyway. Having built my barber's tent, I go on to construct a roaring campfire. This is essential to increase my night effectiveness as well as men-at-arms size, both of which will be necessary for me to conquer land in Persia. I attempt to mug yet another Welshman, but he escapes. So far it is 2 for 4, but an extra 100 gold in total. In the fullness of time, I execute the contract, netting me 105 gold. So basically, from one lower tier criminal contract, I have netted myself and my camp an extra 205 gold, which I promptly used to upgrade my barber's tent once again. I get quite lucky, the mercenaries event. This allows me to get an army of 600 men, equivalent to levies for the most part, for 50 gold. This will prove most helpful when I go on to conquer land. For extra prestige, I create a cadet branch. I love the auto-generated motto, God help me, so I keep it.
Help me! Help me!
I do, however, want a cool-sounding dynasty name, so I go with Ælfræd. In a bid to get closer to Persia, I move my camp to southern France. When in France, I take another mug wealthy nobles contract for more money. At some point along my journey, I was joined by a strong, ugly Welshman, Ælfræd the Boar. Honestly, I love this guy. Look at him. Look at his face. I rob a baron for 50 gold, and in and during this time, I get the trait Flexible Leader from an event. It is always good to accrue commander traits. The more commander traits you have, the better. It makes you an absolute menace when fighting other rulers. So I'm collecting them as and when I can. I rob another guy for 50 gold, but the third target escapes. I point out at this point that Alfred's personality is entirely unsuited for crime. He's honest, so each mugging or attempted mugging gives him stress. I slay a wolf in the course of my adventures, gaining 350 prestige. I need all I can get. I get another 50 gold from a further successful mugging, and whilst I am ultimately unsuccessful in executing the scheme, my successful ad hoc crimes have netted me 150 gold in total, so it doesn't really matter. Next, I take a contract to silence missionaries, which just sounds like a euphemistic way of facilitating religious oppression. But that doesn't matter because the contract will give me gold, piety, and prestige on completion. I easily complete it, and on the way back to my camp, I somehow find 15 gold in the sea. Never really understood that event, but, I'm not one to look a gift horse in the mouth. My newfound sea fortune allows me to upgrade my pavilion, which in turn increases my maximum number of men-at-arms regiments. I decide to take yet another mug wealthy citizenry contract. Unfortunately, the Count Gorsbert dies, and I'm unable to complete the scheme. But I did, however, manage to get 50 gold for my efforts of mugging somebody. I buy some supplies. This will be necessary for me to travel greater distances. I take a quick settle boundary dispute contract, which nets me a small amount of gold and prestige. At least at this stage, I am no longer languishing in the disgraced level of fame. I take my next contract, Rustle Animals. This is an awesome contract for gold and provisions. A really good way to make some currency as an adventurer. I am successful with both events, netting myself 162 gold in total.
Tell them to bring me my money.
I now move my camp to Beirut. I'm aiming to get to Persia as soon as possible. Whilst traversing the great Mediterranean Sea, I upgrade my camp once more, building proving grounds to increase the size of my men-at-arms regiments. I upgrade my roaring campfire on the way to Beirut too. Once in Beirut, I look at the Iranian Intermezzo screen. Look at the Iranian Intermezzo screen. It is only 13 out of 500 towards concession, being the automatic resolution of the struggle. I am definitely early enough to the struggle that I'll be able to resolve it. I keep in mind which cultures and religions are considered to be involved in the struggle. This is imperative before becoming landed, as I must ensure that Alfred is both of an involved culture and an involved religion. In order to gain more piety to convert to another religion, which will prove to be a waste as adventurers can simply go to a temple of a different faith on the map to convert to the chosen religion for free, I go on a pilgrimage. In the course of doing so, I get the open-minded trait for free via an event. So that's pretty cool. Plus, I'm now pious enough to ask Mr. Pope for 100 gold, which I promptly get. I still get the nickname The Great, which is funny, but I'm not one to argue with preordained destiny. Whilst in Beirut, I take another Silence Missionaries contract. If I am successful, I'll get 127 gold, 75 prestige, and 100 piety, which is a pretty package. But true to form, I bungle it. Now I move into the struggle area. Settling in Samara to convert to Nestorianism. So this allows me to convert to Nestorianism for free, which I do. Nestorianism is a faith involved in the Iranian Intermezzo, and I wanted to stay Christian, which is why I chose it. However, what I didn't appreciate at the time is that Nestorianism is a pluralistic faith. What this means, practically speaking, is that each holy war for a duchy or kingdom title will not kick out vassals of a hostile faith from their territories. In fact, you will simply inherit the vassals under those titles, notwithstanding the fact that they are not of your faith. This will present a problem in due course, a fact which I am blissfully unaware of at this stage. I take another Russell Animals contract, and I'm unsuccessful with both events, despite a high likelihood of succeeding on both occasions. A second contract bungled. I want to conquer, in the first instance, the County of Galan. Before I do, I take a Flogged Talisman's contract. I bungle this one too. That's 3 contracts in a row bungled.
Bruh.
Interestingly, an Abbasid prince wants to leave court and join my camp. I let him, because it's quite cool. Next, I take the Instructor of Knights contract. If successful, this type of contract gives you a significant amount of money and prestige. Ultimately, I'm successful with both training sessions and I get my coveted gold and prestige. Because the ruler of Gilan only has light horsemen men-at-arms, I go for men-at-arms that counter them, pikemen. I also get onages for good measure and easy sieging. I cannot declare war for Gilan yet, as my level of fame is less than distinguished. At some point, I decide to follow a child to a cave, which is not dodgy at all, and I get a chance to find some treasure. I get incredibly lucky. I dredge up nothing less than the Sasanian sword. Look at those sweet bonuses. In enduring this, I've taken a Regale Court contract, and I take the options that maximize prestige. I execute my Regale Court scheme, and now I am very close to the required level of fame. I take a quick and dirty Burn Property contract for more gold before invading Gilan, which I successfully complete and obtain 108 gold as a result. I ask one of my patrons to host a grand tournament with the hopes of that winning it, or at least participating, will get me more prestige. I enter this grand tournament and see that it's basically a slam poetry contest.
This is a work in progress. So, slam poetry, yelling, angry, waving my hands a lot, specific point of view on things. Cynthia, Jesus died for our Cynthias. Jesus cried, runaway bride. Julia Roberts, Julia Rob hurts.
Cynthia, you're dead. You are dead. Bop, boop, beep, bop, bop, boop, bop. You're dead. That's for Cynthia, who's dead.
I do not qualify yet. Clearly, I am no orator. Nevertheless, I visit various locales and take options that guarantee my qualification. During this time, I get the required level of fame to invade Gilan. In the fullness of time, and much to my surprise, I win the slam poetry competition. I now have all that I need to conquer Gilan, but I do need to convert to an involved culture. I move my camp closer to Gilan, and on the way I get lucky with the rough terrain expert commander trait. I now have 3 distinct commander traits which will greatly assist me in conquering land. I decide, in a spur of a moment decision, to become Kurdish. Now I am Alfred the Great, an Nestorian Kurd. It is time. I declare war for my prize, Gilan. Finally, and quite easily, I conquer it. I am now part of the struggle. I am quite lucky. There's a single county in the form of Gurgen, which I can quickly yoink to increase my power. This I do, winning the war quite easily. Unfortunately, Gurgen was subject to a sponsored invasion, with my very neighbor, the Zaydids, sponsoring it. They outnumber me, but I am Alfred, the greatest Kurd. I wallop the Zaydid forces. Even the steppe reinforcements that come from the sea offer a white peace, because it's just easier this way. But having shown the Zaydids that I am a force to be reckoned with, I immediately declare war for their primary emirate. I hire the Kurdish band, my Kurdish brothers, because they only cost 77 gold to hire. It's a bargain, and I'm going to use them a lot through this playthrough, as I essentially get a force of extra 768 men for the price of a men-at-arms regiment. At this stage, the Intermezzo is 96 out of 500 towards automatic resolution. This is more than enough time to resolve the struggle. Even after the Zaydids hire mercenaries, I massacre them. I win the war convincingly, and as you can see, I am much stronger now. I do my little trick for extra gold, and it goes something like this. In my newly conquered counties, and after increasing crown authority to level 2, I revoke my mayor's titles where there are buildings currently under construction. Then, I cancel these construction projects, getting their value refunded directly to my treasury. I don't really care about the longevity of my territory, I only care about the struggle. I build some more buildings to consolidate my power and create the Duchy of Gurgen. I immediately embark upon another holy war for a neighboring large duchy. My strategy is simple. The quicker I can amass land, the earlier I can resolve the struggle. I extend my boys' contract to the Kurdish band, albeit that is now 96 gold to extend their tenure. At this stage, I finally become the head of the Serdasing dynasty. I believe that's the correct pronunciation. Hell yeah. I can get some great alliances with powerful Indian kingdoms, made possible by the fact that Nestorianism has the Eastern syncretism tenet. So this is what I do. I win my holy war quite easily. I am much larger now, but here's the kicker. As I mentioned earlier, Nestorianism is pluralistic. Holy wars inherit vassals of other faiths. This means that I cannot replace all these vassals, something which will become a problem later on. At the very least, most of my inherited vassals do convert to Nestorianism on request or demand. The Intermezzo is now 145 out of 500 towards automatic resolution. I do a quick and dirty holy war for Swenik, and I win it with ease. I use the same tactic as before, stealing money from my mayors. Swenik is the perfect territory for my Abbasid prince who joined my camp. He has earned this privilege. Plus, he's got good claims, so he now becomes landed. Good for you, my guy. I extend my Kurdish boys contract for another 59 gold. Awesome. And I get an alliance with none other than the Emperor of Byzantium himself. I declare and win a very easy war for Shahrazar. I then go for the Dulafid Emirate. The Intermezzo, as I've alluded to before, is basically all about land. This is why my wars are in quick succession. The quicker I can grow, the better. I wax the Dulafids. Easy war, easy victory. But once again, I have to ask my new vassals to convert, which most do. Unfortunately, at this stage, I notice that the Saffarids have converted to Zayidi. This means that a holy war on my long-time enemies, the Zaydids, will be more difficult. This won't stop me, however. I am Alfred the Great Kurd, after all. The Intermezzo is now 154 out of 500 towards automatic resolution. I want to end the Iranian Intermezzo by way of Abbasid humiliation. It made sense to me in my mind that Nestorian Kurds could dominate the Caliphate. In particular, I note that I need to completely control the Duchy of Samarra, the County of Samarra for at least 5 years, and the Sheikhdom of Baghdad. The Saffarids being Zaidi is a real pain in the doot, because they might come to the aid of anyone sharing their faith that I declare a holy war on. So, to get around this problem, I decide to use the Conquer County Casus Belli for the County of Ray, extending my Kurdish brothers' contract once more. I win the war easily, defeating the combined forces of both remaining Zaydid rulers in battle. I then do a holy war for the Duchy of Dalim, which I win quite easily. Now I have a lot of territory. I am Big Gurgen, and Nestorianism is spreading. I conquer Takrit, getting me ever closer to Samarra, both the duchy and the county, as well as Baghdad. I decide to create more siege men-at-arms for a very specific reason. I can siege very incredibly quickly, and you will see in a moment just how useful this tactic can be. I am now very strong and earning a decent amount of money, 9 gold a month and 4,247 troops. I'm quite confident that I'll be able to resolve the struggle easily from this point. In any event, I extend my Kurdish brothers' contract once again and easily defeat the peasant faction that formed against me. At this stage, the Intermezzo is 182 out of 500 towards automatic resolution. To demonstrate just how fantastic my new siege engines are, I declare a holy war for the Attab Emirate. Note that it takes me a mere 3 months to siege a barony. How fantastic. The fact that I can siege so quickly, coupled with the fact that Ælfræd is an absolute beast, allows me to win this war quite easily. I use my standard gold accumulation tactic in my newly conquered lands and amass a significant sum of gold, enough to create the Kingdom of Dalim. I then use my existing claimant within my territory to grab the remainder of the lands held by the Dunafids, winning the war quite easily. Most, but not all, of the vassals of this newly conquered territory convert to Nestorianism. I promptly declare another holy war. My siege engines come in clutch and the war is won very quickly. Using my standard mayor theft tactic, I have 660 gold after the war, enough to start a holy order, which will be most useful in the long run as I seek to expand my Dalimite borders. The holy order will essentially be free mercenaries that I can summon at my beck and call as and when it becomes necessary. Given the current phase of the Intermezzo, I cannot use a Conquer County Casus Belli. This is where my Abbasid friend comes in handy. I press his claims to grab the Sheikhdom of Samarra. I will have to revoke it from him in time, but for now I have the required county in my realm. I have met, or I am close to meeting, a lot of the requirements for the Abbasid humiliation ending to the Intermezzo. I do need the Duchy of Samarra, however, but unfortunately, as these things seem to happen to me, my neighbor Emir Yaqub has become a conqueror. Great. In the meantime, I declare a holy war for the Emirate of Shirvan for more land. The last remaining Zaydid, the cheeky bugger, uses this opportunity whilst I am distracted to reclaim the county of Ray, calling the Saffarids in to assist him. I surrender the war. It is just one county. In any event, my holy war bodes well and I win it. I am now even closer to resolving the Intermezzo by way of Abbasid humiliation. The only real impediment in my mind is having a realm larger than Caliph Abdallah. I do my standard things. I extend the contract of my Kurdish bros and marvel at how much Nestorianism has grown and flourished in my kingdom. Once again, as is always my luck, Yaqub, another Yaqub, of the Saffarids have become a conqueror. I am now sandwiched between two conquerors trying to stop me from reaching my goal. I embark upon a holy war for the duchy held by the last Zaydid, as I know their Saffarid allies will not come to their aid. They are too busy being conquerors. This war I win easily, and I convert the very last landed Zaydid to Nestorianism. The very first antagonists in the Middle East have now been defeated, and Nestorianism continues to grow. The Intermezzo is now 219 out of 500 towards automatic resolution. Okay, I confess to you at this point that I got a call from my mother. She currently lives abroad in Japan, and that I failed to record crucial footage. I'd also gone for a gastroscope earlier in the day, so I was feeling a bit out of it. Because of this, I failed to record my victory over the Saffarids, but basically, What I did is that I waited until the Saffarids were distracted by a faraway war. I then declared war for the Duchy of Nishapur, and I used my siege engines to siege all the required territory as fast as possible, winning the war before the Saffarids could even arrive to fight me. I also beat the other conqueror to my south in open battle. I would not have been able to do this with the Saffarids, they were way too strong, which is why I chose to be sneaky. I'm quite upset by this mistake because the footage was really cool. I really felt in that moment that my Kurdish Ælfræd was truly great. Pity, but I digress. I now hold the Duchy of Samarra, including the county itself, as well as Baghdad. Basically all that I need for the decision to dominate the Caliphate. I'm also very strong, 12.7 gold per month and 6,233 troops. Nestorianism has continued to spread. At this stage, I need to hold more land than the Caliph, so what I do is declare a holy war for the Kingdom of Arabia, hiring my holy order too. I siege like a beast and go for a great battle, massacring the Abbasid forces, as well as those of their allies, all the while retaining the services of my Kurdish bros. I win the war, inheriting all the vassals under the de jure Kingdom of Arabia on my victory. The Intermezzo is now just over halfway towards an automatic resolution. Now I basically have all that I need to take the Abbasid humiliation decision. I now hold more land than the Caliph. I just need to hold the county of Samarra for a couple more years to take the decision for Abbasid humiliation. A large faction of Muslims begins to form. No matter, I think. Soon I will take the decision to end the Intermezzo, but then I see it. To end the Intermezzo by way of Abbasid humiliation, I must be Muslim. I then turn to the requirements for Iranian resurgence. I could have taken this decision were it not for the fact that Nestorianism is pluralistic, and each of my holy wars did not displace existing rulers. So basically, I kept my uninvolved count-level rulers each time I amassed more land. There are simply too many of these vassals. I cannot, at this late stage, risk a rebellion in trying to replace them with Iranian rulers. To make matters worse, Nestorianism has grown so much. I've done all of this as a Christian Kurd. I do not want to become Muslim to achieve my goals. In any event, I beat the faction formed against me with ease, and with great trepidation, I convert to Islam. I can now take the decision to dominate the Caliph, becoming the Emperor of Arabia. And then I promptly convert back to Nestorianism, keeping the faith alive. I become known as the Protector of the Caliphate. Not the title I wanted, but at least I've resolved the Intermezzo in time. I ask all my new Muslim vassals to convert to Nestorianism, and most do. The faith will continue to remain strong. And that is how I resolve the Iranian Intermezzo as Alfred of Dorset. The House of Wessex is all but done, but it lives on through me, the Kurdish Emperor of Arabia. God help me indeed.